Okay, so you ask a large language model a really tough scientific question, and you get back this incredibly polished, authoritative-sounding answer. But what is that answer, really? Like, from a philosophical point of view, is it knowledge? Is it testimony, like when an expert tells you something? Seriously, we have to figure this out because how we answer that question changes everything about how we should think about and, trust these new tools.
So to help us unpack all this, we're going to be diving into a really fantastic paper by Muhammad Ali Ashori Kasomi. It's called From Testimony to Technology-Based Belief, a review based on critical contextual empiricism. This was presented at the second conference on cyberspace over at the University of Tehran, and it gets right to the heart of this whole epistemic puzzle.
And this is really the central question, right? We're not just asking if the AI got the answer right or wrong. We're asking something deeper. What is the nature of this information we're getting? Is it like reading a textbook? Is it like talking to a professor? Or is it something completely new that we don't even have a category for yet?
All right, here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll frame the big epistemic AI question. Then, we'll look at 3 different views on what AI output actually is. After that, we'll zoom in on the mainstream idea, which is Freeman's technology-based belief, and then challenge it with a different lens, Longino's critical contextual empiricism. We'll use that to critique Freeman and then build up to a much stronger conclusion. Sound good? Let's jump in.
So as AI is quickly becoming our go-to for, well, pretty much everything, from complex coding problems to scientific research, the people who study knowledge for a living, epistemologists, are kind of scrambling. They're trying to figure out, where does this stuff fit? How do we even begin to classify the answers we get? And more importantly, how do we justify trusting them?
I mean, think about it. In philosophy, we've got these nice, neat boxes for how we know things. You see something with your own 2 eyes, that's perception. You remember a fact you learned, that's memory. A reliable person tells you something, that's testimony. But AI, it doesn't really fit, does it? It's not a person giving testimony in the way we usually think about it, but it's way more than a simple tool like a calculator. So, what is it?
Well, as you might expect with a puzzle this big, the philosophical community has a few different ideas kicking around.
So the first view is pretty simple. An AI is just an instrument, like a microscope. It helps us see things, but it doesn't testify. The second view says it's basically a fancy pipeline for human knowledge. It just passes along stuff humans wrote without really adding anything. But the third one, and this is where it gets interesting, calls it quasi-testimony. The idea here is that it looks and feels like testimony, but something's just off. It's not quite the real thing. And it's this third view that really gets all the attention.
And that brings us right to the main theory that the paper really wants to engage with. It's a position from philosopher Ori Freiman, and it's probably one of the most developed takes on this whole quasi-testimony idea. Now, to really get what Freeman's arguing, you have to know where he's coming from. He's working in a field called mainstream social epistemology. Now, this field looks at how groups know things, but it often does it by taking ideas we use for a single person, like what it means for you to have a belief, and then tries to stretch them to fit a whole group. And this focus on the individual is actually a super important detail, so keep that in the back of your mind.
So, Freeman comes out swinging against the idea of calling AI output group testimony. He says that's a huge mistake for 2 main reasons. First, you're treating the AI like it's a single collective mind that believes things, which is basically treating a machine like a person. And second, he points out that all the scientists whose papers the AI trained on, well, they never got together and intended to testify as a group through this machine.
So Freeman's solution is to create a whole new category. He says what we get from an AI isn't testimony at all. Instead, we should call it a technology-based belief. It's a clever term, right? It acknowledges the source is a piece of tech, and it neatly sidesteps all the problems with calling it testimony. Okay, but this is where Ashori Kasomi's paper makes its most brilliant move. It says, hold on, what if we step outside that whole mainstream way of thinking? And it brings in a totally different and way more social framework for understanding scientific knowledge, all based on the work of philosopher Helen Longino. Longino's theory is called critical contextual empiricism, or CCE for short. And honestly, it completely flips the script. CCE argues that real scientific knowledge isn't just a pile of facts sitting in a bunch of individual scientists' brains. No. It says knowledge is actually created in the social process, in the debates, the arguments, the peer review, the conferences. The process is what turns information into knowledge.
So this changes everything. In this view, knowledge isn't some static object you can just pass around. It's something that a community achieves through constant critical conversation. And get this, disagreement isn't a problem to be solved, it's the very engine that creates knowledge in the first place.
Okay, so now we've got our two competing frameworks. We have Friedman's view, which is focused on individuals and their intentions, and we have Longino's view, which is all about the social process. Let's see what happens when we use CCE as a lens to look at Friedman's argument about AI. See, Friedman is worried about the intent of individual people, but from the CCE perspective, that's just looking in the wrong place. The real question isn't about intent, it's about participation. To give scientific testimony, you have to be an active member of that critical knowledge-building community.
And this is the absolute key insight of the paper. Friedman is right that AI output isn't group testimony, but he's right for the wrong reason. The problem isn't that the AI lacks a mind or that the original authors lacked a collective intent. The problem is that the AI is completely cut off from the social process. It doesn't argue, it doesn't get peer-reviewed, it can't defend its position in a debate. It's not a member of the club.
So where does this leave us? The point is to use it to build something even better and more robust.
So the final verdict is in. The paper actually agrees with Friedman's conclusion. What we get from an AI is not group testimony, but it gets there for a completely different reason. It's because the AI is excluded from the critical social dialogue of the scientific community. It's like an outsider reporting on a conversation it can't actually join.
And here is the final, really elegant move. Asheri Kisomi says we should actually keep Friedman's term technology-based belief, but we should redefine it through the lens of CCE. A technology-based belief is what you get from a process that, by its very nature, lacks the social and critical participation that's required for real scientific testimony. It still correctly identifies the output as a kind of knowledge or belief, but it zeroes in on the real reason it isn't testimony, that lack of social participation. And it keeps our attention on the technology and the huge responsibility of the people who build and design it. And this all leaves us with a mind-bending question for the future. Right now, we're defining AI's output by its exclusion from the scientific community. But what happens when that's not true anymore? What happens when an AI can actually propose new ideas, critique other research, and genuinely participate in that critical dialogue? What kind of rules will we need then? That is the massive challenge this new understanding leaves us to think about.